When looking at race, gender, class, and other forms of one's identity, people often separate them as if they are isolated identities. But in reality, they are far from isolated.
People often. How often? And how do you know what people think? Also, I have never really understood the notion of class as an identity, or race as an identity, or gender as an identity. None of those things are determinative of who you are, but merely what you are, or in the case of class, what your economic circumstances are at the moment. I identify myself using my given name. The personal choices and reputation associated with that name are what constitute my identity. Anybody can be male, straight, and white, but I am the only scribe-lite. That constitutes about the extent of my poetic abilities.
You see, classifications of identity such as gender, race, class, sexual orientation, and others cannot be examined in isolation from one another.
They cannot be examined in isolation from one another. Why not? Who says so? You? And who are you again? Not what are you? Who are you?
They interact and intersect in people's lives, in society, and in social systems. This is known as intersectionality.
Ah, intersection. My favorite. The art of taking a combination of arbitrary and abstract concepts and piling them all together to create a reprocessed mystery meat of self-conjured victimhood. Intersectionality is a tool used to both create a reason to complain, as well as a tool to place the blame for one's problems on the ethereal boogeyman of society. It is a faith-based belief system, and I find it endlessly entertaining. Because, just like the devoutly religious, you never know what they are going to say next.
The pay gap in America is a prime example of intersectionality. For the same job, women are paid much less compared to every dollar a white man makes.
Okay, since this is a show about words, let's pull out two words our speaker just used there. Paid and makes. Men make more money as a consequence of working longer hours and working higher paid positions. They are not paid more, they earn more. It is an earnings gap, not a wage gap. And to then say the gap is a result of sexism is to use the God of the gaps theory on the earnings gap statistics. But, moving on.
White women are paid 78 cents. For black women, it's 63 cents, and for Latinas, it's 57 cents.
Okay, for the sake of argument, I will stipulate to your statistics. So, please name for us the companies who tier their paid compensation on the basis of employee race. Please name them, because those companies are committing federal crimes. And if there are companies committing federal crimes on such a massive scale as to affect the whole of the national statistics, then there should be a litany of lawsuits that you can cite showing this to be the case. And yes, I know our speaker will not and cannot produce such evidence. It just irritates me that such a claim of endemic injustice does not seem to require an explanation. It simply is.
You see what I mean?
No. No, I do not.
So simply saying there's a gender pay gap isn't enough. You have to break that down even further and see that race plays a key factor, meaning that for women of color, the pay gap isn't influenced by just gender. It's also race.
Okay, if pay statistics for women writ large are X, therefore sexism, and you then break that down by racial demographics and get A, B, and C, therefore racism, and you think that is proof enough to what amounts to a federal crime, then call the authorities. No, I am serious. If our speaker truly believes that finding statistical differentials is proof of a federal crime, then he should be on the phone right now to the press and the police and the Justice Department. He should be taking action to solve the problem, not just talking about it. Shouldn't he?
Now, intersectionality isn't only reflected in our society's pay gap. It's also reflected here at PCC.
Oh, so your community college is also racist and sexist towards its students? If that is true, if you know that to be true, why are you still going there?
As a black man, I can think of several examples. Can you? Think about it.
Several examples that you just don't care to mention. So, even when our speaker has his own anecdotal evidence at the ready, he still does not provide it. And he's telling me to think about it. Got it.
Make sure to check out our next Word of the Week. See you then. Bye.
I really do appreciate these snapshots of buzzwords that this series provides us, because as truncated a conceptual review as these videos are, they showcase the bedrock of these belief systems. Now, more experienced and practiced speakers and intellectuals will take those basic notions and fill them with more flowery language, anecdotal examples, and ambiguous pie charts, but what we have just watched is the core of the argument. So remember, kids, the next time someone explains intersectional theory to you, ask them this question. Given the arbitrary nature of race, gender, orientation, etc., and given that a theory of societal value and personal prospects can be assessed by analyzing the overlap and intersection of those factors, how are identities any different than zodiac signs or the position of the planets? How is intersectional theory any more accurate a forecast of the quality of my life than a horoscope? As always, thank you for watching.